and welcome to our daily news show, The Big Story, where we talk about the hottest topics of today right in the heart of the newsroom. I'm Kimberly Jiao, coming to you live from the Straits Times, and we are streaming on YouTube and Facebook, so do leave us a comment, like and share it with your friends, as well as hit that bell to be told whenever we go live. I'll be joined by a couple of my newsroom colleagues to discuss what got you talking today. Our first story: some private hire drivers here are using modified apps, or apps that have been hacked, of ride-hailing firms such as Grab and Gojek to cheat the system. With me to discuss this today is the newspaper journalist David Sun, who broke the story. Hi, David.
Hi.
So how did you come across this story?
So actually I found an allegation on social media, and so I did some research, and what I found was that there were a few communities online dedicated to hacking and modifying such apps. And even for those who can't, don't have the technical know-how of how to do something like that, there are services that are touted online whereby you can pay like a subscription fee kind of thing of like 200 to 300 Sing dollars, depending on what the app is, to use it for the month. And essentially how these modded apps work is that they bypass certain safety features. And the main function that the people actually go for is that it allows them to cancel or not accept certain jobs. With the normal app, when you cancel a ride or you don't accept a certain ride, then your rating goes down or something like that. You have a penalty of sorts. So the allegations are that the users of such apps actually congregate in certain areas, mainly in the CBD, from what I understand, whereby they collude and they just cancel or do not accept certain rides for a time period until like there's a surge pricing. So that's when they accept the rides for a higher fare, allowing them to get more money. But it's mainly this is mainly what the modded apps are used for. But there are numerous issues with this because it can be used for other sorts of crimes.
I see. So would you say this is very common here? Is it very rampant?
I think it's been going on for a while, ever since such apps appeared in the market. And the thing is, companies don't want to reveal how common this actually is. But from what I understand, it's been happening in areas even outside the CBD. And it's actually more common overseas, not just for Grab or Gojek, which we have here, but you have other ride-hailing apps like Uber who have faced the same problem. But it's not hard to find such modded apps online. I mean, all you have to do is just look on social media or certain places whereby such private hire drivers congregate, and you'll be able to find such apps being touted there.
Oh, wow. So you've touched on this a little bit earlier, but how does this hacking specifically affect consumers like maybe you or me?
Well, the first thing is that we might end up paying more, right? Because you get surge pricing and all that kind of thing, which goes against the whole idea, which is these rides are supposedly reasonably priced. And it's not just consumers who are affected. Even the Grab drivers who use such apps have put themselves at risk.
Okay.
Because there might be malicious code inside these apps, especially if I'm going for a subscription service. I'm buying a modded app of somebody who has hacked it. I don't know what's going on at the back end. There could be malicious code there that could be taking my own data, my payment details and all that kind of thing, and they might be collecting the data. So it compromises me if I was the one to use the modded app. It also puts like other Grab drivers off, especially those who don't use the app, because they'll be like, hey, this is not fair to us, how is this guy earning so much money? So there are a lot of like such allegations online. So the personal safety of consumers might also be compromised, because like the function of the app is like I can just cancel, I can just not accept certain rights. The issue with this is that, let's say if I am a rogue driver and I decide like, hey, I want to target a certain demographic, let's say schoolgirls. Right? I can just like wait outside a certain school or institution, and I just sit there and be like, okay, this is a guy, no, okay, this girl seems nice, clicks, and then I can just like, after a while, it'll be like, oh, okay, this girl is always taking a ride at a certain time, at a certain place. I'm just gonna keep coming back and following her. I know where she goes. You'll be able to track where they go all the time. So there is an issue with that, yeah.
It's very scary when you put it that way.
Yeah.
So what are companies like sort of Grab and Gojek doing about this?
So they are clamping down. From what I understand, they frequently update their apps, because every time they update their app, the modders and the hackers will have to try to play catch up and try to bypass it again. So by frequently updating the apps, it maybe takes them 2 days to a week to come up with a new version of the modded app. And by then, they might be rolling out another update already. So that's one way they're dealing with it. Another way that Grab specifically is dealing with it is that they have this fair play scheme available for their own drivers, whereby they can go to the Grab website, and if they have information or proof that other Grab drivers are using such modded apps, they can actually submit the information. And the thing about it is that Grab pays up to 1,000 US dollars for such information, which is about 1,003 Sing. Yeah.
Wow.
So once they find out about such things, they will clamp down. But the problem is that it's quite difficult for the firms because there will always be people trying to game the system.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, what happens to the people who are reported under this sort of fair play scheme?
They face things like warnings or suspensions. As for prosecution, the companies didn't want to reveal any details. Okay. So yeah, that's where we are at now.
I see. So if you're a Grab driver out there, do keep a lookout for drivers like this who are using such apps, and maybe you have to report them. Thanks, David, for sharing more with us. If you'd like to read this full story, do head on to the New Papers website. That's www.tnp.sg. Our next story. The Land Transport Authority, or LTA, is reviewing whether to bring forward its end 2020 deadline that is going to ban all personal mobility devices, that's PMDs, which are not certified from public paths in the light of the recent fire incidents. You may remember that yesterday a couple of people had to escape from a burning building from an Ang Mo Kio flat, and that was because of an exploded PMD. With me to discuss this today is journalists Kara Wong and To Ting Wei. Hi both.
Hello.
So in yesterday's episode, Kara came on and you talked a little bit about how these fires are caused, right? But today let's go a little bit more in detail. How are they caused exactly?
Okay, so this gets a little bit technical. So as mentioned yesterday, there are several factors that really increases the risk of fires, right? Poor quality batteries, poor quality chargers, or maybe just ones that are not compatible. And then you have modified batteries. So what happens when an explosion happens is that you plug the batteries and the chargers in the charge, and then when you plug it in, it actually causes overheating because some part in the battery doesn't work. Or let's say if you do this modification called to try to increase the speed of your scooters, you remove the BMS to make it go faster. But what this does is it prevents the battery from being able to stop itself from charging. So it overheats. When it overheats, it tends to explode.
I see. So instead of stopping itself, it just keeps
Yeah, it just keeps like shoving food.
I see.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're going to see how dangerous this is exactly. We have a video that was released by the Chinese Fire Department. So it's going to, if we can show everyone the video, it is of this Chinese family who, yeah, we can see here whose electric scooter was charging and then it started smoking. The smoke that comes out from it is, from batteries, so it's highly toxic. And we can see that there's a lot of it and it can suffocate people in seconds. And then an explosion happens and they are barely able to escape this, and it's, really scary. Like, these things can happen and it's very serious.
Yeah.
I mean, luckily they managed to get out of the way, but undeniably it's very dangerous.
Yes.
Right? So, and there are ways that they can prevent this, and we actually have a video from our colleague from the video team, Renee, who has made it, and it depicts how to exactly prevent this from happening to your PMD. Let's have a look.
Batteries that are UL2272 certified have a higher safety standard. This means that they can withstand various stresses, such as exposure to different temperatures. Make a habit of checking the battery for damage or deformities. Does it look bloated or corroded? Does it have a powdery residue? These are warning signs which may lead to overheating and fires.
Full video, do head on to www.straitstimes.com/videos. So besides what was mentioned in the video, how can a PMD user prevent this from happening?
Okay, well, first thing, try to always get your PMDs from an authorized seller here. The ones that are from authorized sellers are supposed to come with the safety mark, and they're supposed to be tested to safety standard. It would be best if you could get like a UL2272 certified scooters, because those have really been tested they've been through a very stringent set of testing. So their fire and electrical system is supposed to be a lot better than the ones that you get online. Yeah.
I see. So if with a good PMD, the difference is that it sort of stops itself from, as we mentioned earlier.
Yes, like it's able to stop itself from charging, like overcharging in a sense. And it has a lot of safety functions that are inbuilt inside the PMD that should be able to prevent this from happening. It's like charging a phone. Like usually there's a safety measure in place.
I see. So let's talk about the end 2020 deadline here. What is the government sort of doing about these fires?
So the Land Transport Authority announced yesterday that it's reviewing its end 2020 deadline for non-UL2272 certified devices to be off the road. So as mentioned by Kara just now, UL2272 is a safety certification. And the rules regarding this certification was actually announced last September. So the government said then that all e-scooters will need to have the certification by end 2021?
End 2020.
End 2020, sorry. And then after that, retailers will not be allowed to sell or loan out these e-scooters from this month onwards. And for the users, for those who have bought it, they are still able to use it, but also until end 2020. So that's what the government has been doing in terms of rules. And in terms of this, it has been quite welcomed by the various MPs that we spoke to. For example, Dr. Lee Biwa, she says it's a good move because, like, for residents, they have concerns that there could be more fire incidents with the recent 2 incidents that we saw last week. And it's also quite a big issue that needs to be addressed because out of the 85,000 e-scooters registered with LTA, right, we don't know the exact breakdown, but we know that majority of these 85,000 are non-certified e-scooters. So what retailers have told us is that based on their estimates, the number could be anything between like 70% to even 90%. For example, one retailer, Mobot, I spoke to them today, they were talking about how they have sold 15,000 e-scooters since they started operations, and about less than 2,000 of these are certified e-scooters. So if you look at the numbers, it's only like 10% of what they have sold. And this is an understandable figure actually, given that for the first UL2272 certified device was launched, if I'm not wrong, it was around December last year. So for the uptake, people have only like 8 months to buy it. So I think most people are still using their non-compliant devices so far.
I see. So it sounds like a lot of people are going to be affected by this moving forward in that case, right? So what are the issues with sort of pushing the deadline up?
Okay, so for the issues wise, I guess there are 2 main parties that we are looking at, retailers and the end user, the commuters. So for retailers, that I spoke to is a bit interesting in the sense that they say it's actually a good thing for them because now that people might have to discard their old e-scooters away, they have to buy new ones to replace, especially for people like those food delivery riders. So they were quite honest, they say it's good business for them, but for them, they also recognize that it's quite unfair to commuters. Because for commuters, they bought the e-scooters, some of them bought the e-scooters with the idea that they are going to use it for maybe at least 1.5 years, at least 2 years. But if you bring forward the deadline, their investment will be shortened. So that's that for the commuters. But I think I've spoken to one of the PMD user who has this non-certified PMD, and he says like he said it's a waste and he says he hopes there should be other solutions to come out, like maybe some independent certification center in Singapore. But he also recognizes that with the safety issues around it, maybe it's better to switch to a compliant device, because I mean, like, no matter how much you fork out, maybe like $800 more, when you compare it to burning down a house or losing property, important things, or even a life like in the case recently, then the amount is actually quite small. So yeah, that put things into perspective.
I see. So if you are a PMD user, I think we would suggest do double check your equipment, make sure that everything is safe so that you don't put others and your own life at risk. Thanks both for sharing more with us. If you would like to follow up, read the various follow-ups to this story, do head on to our website, that's www.straitstimes.com. And those are our top stories of the day. Once again, if you would like to visit more news and videos, do head on to our website, www.straitstimes.com. This has been Kimberly Jiao. Thank you for watching The Big Story, and we'll see you tomorrow.